But let's have Dr. Engineer Wisdom. So, Doctor, a very good day to have you on the show, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
All right, so, Doc, let's go straight to our point of discussion. Geopolitical tension, geopolitical event, geopolitical pressure. A lot of these have had significant impact on crude oil price. But let's have your take on this.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think very interesting, right? We're seeing proceedings on the way for Russia to come back into the international market fully. And that again has shaped the way the pricing and the supply dynamics has gone, because you've seen OPEC going from a bullish approach to supply to now a bearish approach. And the reason is because, like I said to you, Russia is a very strong force when it comes to crude supply. If you're not careful, and you go all gun blessing, and Russia is in that market, you risk a number of things. Russia has survived for the past couple of years by providing crude at a very subsidized rate. They've provided their petroleum products at subsidized rate to people that were willing to buy. So no matter how you crash that market, they will survive. They will survive. Saudi Arabia will also survive because, it costs about $15 to $18 per barrel to produce from their sands. So, OPEC has got to be careful. And the way they do this is to make sure that, okay, if we put an oversupply situation, we're going to harm our members, small members in terms of production, because what that means is that members will be forced to put out more for less of the value in price. So sometimes OPEC balances the whole narrative by looking at the production and the overall economic dynamics of these members and say, look, we've got enough in the market. The price at the moment is, about 64. We're not going to push further so that we do not hurt, our smaller members. And then they obviously look out for opportunities to increase the supply without necessarily hurting the price to a point where it crashes below what its members can meaningfully profit from.
Exactly. But let's do some analysis around the geopolitical tension for now. Last week, we saw a news of Ukraine attacking Russian oil facilities. With that, many were thinking, it has happened. Russia will not be able to come to the market. But all of a sudden, within that same week, few days after that attack, we saw Russia loading crude oil tanker with their product. What do you make of that?
All right, thank you. I think, we need to understand that we cannot judge Russia's petroleum value chain with the way Nigeria is, right? So we have very kind of finite, I would like to say, storage facilities. And, the finite, and they're not even enough to last for a while. So we can think that our production is from the production center and offloading into the tanker. So if anything happens and one of our production facilities get knocked out, we will not be able to, sell the storm economically. However, Russia has a very large expense of storage facilities. So just knocking off one of their facilities, it doesn't go away, and push away the fact that they have, let's say, a year's worth of storage facilities for their petroleum products, and they can actually lift from there. Just like the US has a very large expense of storage facilities. So I don't think that's enough. Just talking of one point is enough to shake their production. No, you cannot judge them just the way that Nigeria works, where we process and then we offload from the terminal directly without actually having a backup storage that could last perhaps between 6 months to 1 year.
Interesting. But let's also look at another geopolitical issue that brought about sanction on Russian oil. As we speak right now, it's not yet clear whether Indians are ready to buy Russian crude oil. But Russia have been able to overcome that. But what do you make of a country like that even though sanctions have been placed on them, that even allies have been told not to buy their crude oil, but they are still surviving? But what do you make of this Russian, Indian sanction not to pick Russian crude oil going forward?
Right. The sanctions has always been there. It's not like going forward, right? It's been there, but Russia finds a way around it because the truth is, you're talking about sanctions, India, and all of that, but there are still people that are private players, big players in India that would lift, and they really don't bother. I mean, they have proxies in other countries. They've registered companies in other countries, and they have interest in lifting Russian oil, and they'll find a way around it. There's absolutely nothing cast in stone that says that we would be able to just through a blanket sanction stop all Indian interests from progressing. Maybe the government, but there are private players, and the government is not quite a big player when it comes to buying. There are private players with licenses that would just route it through a country that would allow a kind of put the focus away from Russia being the original source, and then they will route it back to India. So I don't think that's going to change the market dynamics a lot, because, like I said, Russia has always thrived on making sure that they find ways around the sanctions. The sanctions has always been there. For example, there was a time where Russia said, look, you have to buy from us with our local currency. There was even a time where they cut their gas supply from Europe, and Europe had to go back to coal. So they do have some sort of playbook up their sleeves that they can deploy. But I don't think there's any blanket sort of policy that could stem away the interest of, say, private players in India or the other surrounding nations from buying from Russia.
But talking about buying from Russia, we saw the play out between Russia and Germany, particularly. I know you are very interested in the gas aspect of the oil and gas, but you saw what really played out when it comes to the gas. And although there are reports that there could be a change of mind on most of these European countries who depend on Russian gas, because the winter is already getting serious at this point in time. But what do you make of the Russian gas at this point in time, now that winter is getting serious and most of them are still quoting the sanction, whether from the European Union or the one that US placed on them? But how do you think the European Union country will survive without Russian gas at this point in time that the winter is very serious?
Okay, I mean, I can only go by what has been done experientially. Now, when the sanctions came in and the winters came in back in 2022, I think it was about July, the European nations decided that, okay, well, we're going to boycott the entire thing and get it back to coal. But then there were now concerns around climate and all of that. And eventually, they started having talks with other countries. I mean, there have been talks about, okay, potentially supporting Nigeria to be able to get those export volumes. There's been talks around increasing the number of traffic from an LNG supply standpoint. So there's been this enormous amount of conversations around pipeline gas, doing away with pipeline gas, because technically Russia is supplying pipeline gas. But you could get in CNG from neighboring countries in Europe that are producing, or LNG from even Nigeria. So what we're going to see is that if the demand gets so huge, I think the primary protocol will be to start up other plants, coal and perhaps nuclear. If it gets even worse and it's going to be a crisis, then we see the sort of demand from LNG supply route. So you would see the LNG supply contours of delivery change in direction, and then towards Europe from emerging markets, and like, for example, Nigeria. So we will see a lot of that happen. But in recent times, nothing would surprise me, because basically we've seen a lot of that. Right now, we used to see traffic of PMS tankers coming from Texas into Nigeria, but now we're seeing the other way around. Dangote is now supplying clients in Texas. So this is an ever-evolving dynamics that I think, as the winter gets close, we might see some reverse directions, shipments from Nigeria, for example, into the European majors. We're going to see a lot of, especially those that have regasifying facilities, to change from LNG back to normal CNG, which is methane at ambient condition. But that's what we'll see. We'll see some sort of adaptation in the supply routes.
Exactly. But let's get back to OPEC. At this point in time, it's like OPEC hands are tied. But that's what I see from various announcements, shifting ground from pumping a lot of product into the market, from restraining themselves from not pumping, then looking at OPEC Plus themselves, which Russia is a big leader in that group. For me, an understanding of what is happening, from the geopolitical tension to the announcement from OPEC, it shows that OPEC on his part his hand is tight, and all their prediction and projection for the year of $100 per barrel, it seems that it is eating the air. They're not going to get it. But from your own understanding, what do you think will happen at the end of the day? There's a $100 prediction that they expect the market to hit, but we are not getting there. We have not even up to 70. And November is almost ending. What do you think will happen to OPEC before December?
Okay, so like there's a number of things, like, and we need to have a balanced perspective. Now, let's look at it from this standpoint. OPEC has members, and members have to are given some sort of quota, right? What you want to see, and the way I like to look at it from a selfish standpoint and ask myself, if Nigeria if Nigeria is asked to increase, do I have the capacity right now? We're doing about 1.406 million barrels per day. Do we have what it takes to actually increase to 1.7? And I'm thinking, okay, thank goodness that there is a delay in the volume, because it helps us to play catch up. And obviously the drill or drop provisions, and obviously the ramp from 8 drilling rigs to about 41 at the moment is going to help us get in some volumes pretty quickly, and the well walkover operations that are going on around the country. So back to your question, OPEC is really trying to manage realities with expectations. So you expect that you can pump it in, but if you do want to pump it in, how many players are going to pump in? Number 1, Russia. Number 2, UAE. Number 3, Qatar. Number 4, Saudi Arabia. What happens to Nigeria? What happens to the rest of the members? So sometimes, if you're looking at just energy perspective, I think it's fair. The delay, I think, is working in Nigeria's own interest. So I'm kind of on a low key. I'm a bit happy about that because it gives Nigeria time to catch up. But speaking about expectations of $100, I don't think that's going to happen. Except we have one big atomic bomb drop somewhere, and then we have a huge cut in the supply. But I don't think at the moment that's going to happen. The winters will come in. We'll get about 72, but that even depends on what the U.S. do, because the U.S. can respond by pouring and flushing the entire place with their reserves. And with Donald Trump, who is very pro petroleum energy, I think we cannot write the entire script just leaving it to Russia and OPEC members. The U.S. can play some surprises and spring some surprises up. But that being said, based on all things being equal as the condition, I do expect that the oil prices may stabilize right about 67, 68 before Christmas time. I hear the winters and people talking about it, but the winters and all of that may actually affect more of the gas prices and a bit of a secondary effect on the oil prices. But yeah, 67, max 70, I think, based on the realities on ground.
Exactly. But let's contextualize this issue and discussion back home here in Nigeria. Riley said something very instructive. $70 IS, the Nigerian budget for 2025 is $75. So it's a big work for the federal government of Nigeria. Where they will get the remaining $5, they have to go and get it from anywhere they can get it. But as Larry also pointed out, the gas is a choice that could help us to ramp up all our revenue from the oil and gas sector. But if we are to ask now, where does it place Nigeria with this geopolitical tension and all that has been happening, fluctuating price and the rest of them, and the working that the NNPC is saying they are doing, the NUPRC and the rest of them. But why do you place Nigeria at this point in time?
Well, I think, like I said, there's a headwind for other producers, but it's more of, it's more of a favorable thing for us because we can't meet that quota at the moment if we were to ask to produce 1.8. So that's good for me, right? But the other thing, I think Nigeria needs to try and improve its overall competitiveness, right? And with that, I mean, we need to put a balanced narrative forward. So on the crude side, I think we've reached some sort of a plateau on how far we can go for now. What is going to help us is to keep other economic metrics, quite well. And by that, I mean, for example, let's look at other things like the the amount of foreign portfolio investments that we can pull in, that is also predicated on the interest rates that we can sustain. And by that, I mean for the Treasury bill. So, for example, we're expecting money to come in. I don't know how much, but we expect that we will have some money coming when we start doing the taxing. We start implementing taxing from January 1. So we can say that from a domestic debt standpoint, we might have enough to be able to solve our domestic debt situation and reduce that debt to GDP ratio a lot further. But from a standpoint of competitiveness, like I said, I do expect, this is not the question, but I do expect some cuts at taking us about 100 basis points to about 26 percent. That's what I personally expect. And the reason I'm not thinking we will go further is because historically, as we get through December and into January, there is a bit of an inflation that we expect at that point, a kind of knock-on effect on that inflation. So you must put some caution in place until other factors start crystallizing, and you think, yes, we've got this under control. The factors are beginning to crystallize. The taxes are coming in like we expect, and then you can kind of begin to do sharp cuts. The second thing is, I do not expect much of an effect until January, ending on our Treasury bill interest rates. The reason I say so is, if you look at right now, we've got our inflation go down from 18% to about 16.02%. However, Treasury bills is doing 1 year maybe 16%. So in terms of real returns, it's really zero. You are earning money, but the one is cushioning the inflation rate, right? Where you want to be is where places like Kenya are. Kenya is doing 7.78% on their Treasury bills, but the inflation rate is about 4.48. And that gives you a real net gain of about 3%. So I'm saying that we would have a cut just to reflect the gains on inflation, but it will be cautious because we cannot do too much without harming the competitiveness of our economy, and the Treasury bill shouldn't take that much cut. Otherwise, we'll have there will be a deficit between the interest rates that we're offering and the inflation rate at this particular point in time.
Doc, we have to leave it like that, but I want to take you on your prediction. You are one of those people that predicted 26.00, so we'll stay at that. And I could recall the last time you were on this show, when it was about the MPC rate, you predicted, and that prediction really come to pass. I hope this one will also come to pass by tomorrow 2 p.m. when the CBN will be announcing their interest rate cut. But thank you so much for coming on the show today, sir.
Thank you very much, and do enjoy the rest of your day.
So I'll get across to you if your prediction really come out true tomorrow.
All right.
All right, so enjoy the rest of your day in Lagos, sir. All right, I'll be speaking with Dr. Engineer Wisdom Enang. For him, 26% cut is coming all the way. That is his projection. I could recall the last time, that's why he predicted 27, and definitely CBN took on 27% as their interest rate cut for the third quarter. But yeah, we will be going on a break so that second guest will come in, or we're talking deliberately and in a more intelligent way, talking about the MPC meeting ongoing right now in the nation's capital, FCT, Abuja, at the CBN quarter. But let's go for this break shortly.